Hey everybody, I'm Mike with MK Outdoor Journal, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. So uncover your keyboard and fire up your fingers. It's time to join the conversation. Hey everybody, it is Monday, February 28th, 2022, and this is The Right of the People. Yes, folks, it's official. I've decided to just bite the bullet and bow to the inevitable and not try to do a show on Friday and not try to do a show on Sunday. But in fact, it's Monday. So we'll talk about last week this week, because that's just the way it's going to have to roll around here. So, hey, at least it's rolling, right? Speaking of at least it's rolling, how you doing, roll call? What's going on, brother?
Doing dishes, doing this show.
Well, I'm glad that you can multitask. And of course, we have the grand multitasker himself, he who maintains things while doing the show, Squibload. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, nothing's been broken all night, so since I'm on the show, they'll be coming in here every 5 seconds.
Well, of course.
Murphy's Law.
Oh, yeah. Murphy is a sumbitch. Want to welcome everybody out there in the chat. We got Mountain View Kingpin, Tactical Fud. How you doing, Buck? Grim90 is here. And, well, according to my numbers, only 2 people are actually here now, so everybody else left. But that's okay. If they have other stuff to do. This isn't mandatory. It's just a little bit of fun, right? Well, I hope so anyway. If you're out there and you haven't sound off so I can say hi. If you have something to say, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and sound off in the chat. Or if you're watching this in a replay or listening in the podcast format and decide to pop on over to the YouTube to leave a comment, sound off. I welcome your opinions. I want your thoughts. That's, this is a conversation. So that implies at least 2 people talking and exchanging ideas. As I said, even if you disagree, that's fine. I'm okay with thinking about other people's opinions and ideas. I want that. I relish it. It lets me know whether my ideas hold weight. So that's great. I don't want to live in an echo chamber, because you don't grow unless you are challenged. That being said, don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk, if you're a troll, if you're here just to cause a ruckus, my mods will get rid of you. And if they don't, I will. Mountain View says broccoli is a man-made vegetable. It may be a man-made vegetable, but it is a damn good one. I like to plant broccoli in the spring. And as a matter of fact, I got to plant a bunch of it this year. Thanks for reminding me. Broccoli greens. You take the big leaves of broccoli and you shred them up a little bit. And you saute them with a little bit of butter and salt. Oh, man, that's so good. You wilt them. You cook them until they're a bit soft. Oh, so good. Try it. It'll change your life. Mike Warhorse is in the house, as is Seven Wonders. Hello to both of you. Glad to see you here. A lot of stuff going on in the world. A lot of stuff both internationally and domestically. But right now, first though, we're going to talk about this domestic stuff. As you know, Justice Stephen Breyer, well, as I assume you know, Justice Stephen Breyer is retiring, and the sniffer-in-chief has announced his pick as a new nominee for a new Supreme Court justice. As I've said before, elections have consequences. One of them is that whoever gets elected president gets to pick the Supreme Court. Thankfully, whether you loved Donald Trump, you hated Donald Trump, or you didn't care about Donald Trump, one thing is for sure. The makeup of the Supreme Court would be far left-wing, liberal, anti-gun, anti-freedom had Hillary Clinton won that election. Whether you think that Donald Trump's Supreme Court picks were pro-gun, anti-gun, or meh, one thing's for sure, Hillary's would have been horrible for our cause. Well, since Sniffy Joe won, he gets to make a replacement for Breyer. And, well, I can't help but think that any replacement Trump would have made would have been way better than this one. Let's take a look at this piece from Breitbart. Gun control groups applaud Biden's nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson. Gun control groups applaud President Biden's Friday nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court of the United States. Jackson is currently a justice on the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Gabby Gifford's gun control outlet, the Giffords Law Center, was quick to laud the nomination of Jackson, and Mike Bloomberg-affiliated Everytown for Gun Safety praised Jackson's nomination as well. From Giffords, this is a tweet by them. History. As a public defender, trial judge, and appeals court judge, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has led a distinguished career in service to our country. She will continue to do so as the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court. Then it quotes a tweet by President Biden. It says, I'm proud to announce that I'm nominating Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the Supreme Court, currently serving on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. She is one of our nation's brightest legal minds and will be an exceptional justice. Everytown President John Feinblatt said, President Biden has governed as the strongest gun safety president in history, and we have every confidence that Judge Jackson will employ a mainstream, common-sense reading of the Second Amendment. In other words, she'll take a gutting knife and rip out its entrails. Moms Demand Action tweets, we need a justice for all, and it is time for a black woman committed to justice for all to be seated on the Supreme Court. Send your senators a message urging them to support President Biden's SCOTUS nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Shannon Watts, founder of the Everytown subsidiary Moms Demand Action, also supported Jackson's nomination, saying, President Biden not only made history nominating the first black woman to the Supreme Court, but he's also nominated someone who we are confident will determine that common sense gun safety laws are constitutional. In other words, as I said, eviscerate the Second Amendment. Our grassroots army of volunteers across the country were proud to help elect the strongest gun safety administration in history. In other words, gun grabber. And today's nomination shows the importance of that work. We look forward to supporting Judge Jackson's nomination and call on the Senate to swiftly confirm her. The Brady campaign to reduce gun violence voiced support for Jackson, too. Brady President Chris Brown said, President Biden has chosen wisely. Judge Brown Jackson is an experienced and thoughtful jurist. Her qualifications are beyond question. There is no doubt as to her judicial temperament. She will make an esteemed and valuable addition to the Supreme Court. We need a justice on the court who understands that there is no daylight between the right to bear arms and laws that protect Americans from the threat of gun violence, and a justice who understands that the effects of our laws fall on Americans differently. Yeah. Not, everybody covered equally. While we look forward to hearing from her and those who know her in the confirmation hearings, it appears that Judge Brown Jackson is such a jurist. We trust that she will continue to defend common sense gun violence prevention laws and adjudicate questions before the court with an eye towards precedent and equity. Equity. The NRA responded to Jackson's nomination with the following statement. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has never affirmed that the Second Amendment protects the individual fundamental right of all Americans to keep and bear arms for the defense of themselves or others. Consequently, the NRA is concerned with President Biden's decision to nominate her to the Supreme Court of the United States at a crucial time when there are vital cases that will determine the scope and future of the Second Amendment and self-defense rights in our country. As we always do, the NRA will monitor her statements during the confirmation process and advise our members accordingly. Jackson is nominated to succeed retiring SCOTUS Justice Stephen Breyer. So, if you are proficient in reading between the lines and you have that sort of literacy, one thing, at least to me, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong on this, both in the chat, in the comments, and on the panel, one thing that is clear to me is that this person, judging from everything I'm reading, is a radical left-wing activist judge who will legislate from the bench, who is virulently anti-gun and woke and social justice warriory. Is warriory a word? If it isn't, it is now. Woke and social justice warriory. So, in short, absolutely, positively horrendous for the Second Amendment cause and the cause of freedom in general. Whatever we can do, we must do to try to derail this. And of course, that's going to mean we have to work and contact our senators. Contact the Democrat senators too. Because, well, who knows? Maybe if there's enough outcry, someone will flip and not vote for her. What do you guys think? Am I off on this? Hello?
The whole contact your Democrat senators.
Yeah, I know.
Some of us live somewhere where that's not.
You still there, Squib?
Yeah.
Okay. Ro, do you have an opinion on this?
I've researched her. If you look at some of the cases
I'll be right back. Hold on. Well, you keep talking. Everybody else, hold on. I'll be right back. I got a message to plug on my second laptop.
I've researched a couple cases she's done, and she's been overturned by judges before, and some of them were cases precedent to your constitutional rights, not just your Second Amendment rights. And when judges and higher courts start overturning your judgments, I think you should maybe retire or come with a better argument than a person's skin color or just an inanimate object for the most part. It's pretty much par for the course, what I expected from Joe Biden. He had a couple other picks that were, I don't want to call them moderate, but a little bit more understanding how the Constitution works. This lady that Mike just referenced, she is full force against the Constitution and some of her views. As Mike mentioned, firearms and things like that. And she was involved with some of the things that have went on over the past couple of years in the summertime. So, I mean, it's just par for the course. This is what the Democrats do. I don't look at like some people do it like, oh, can't wait for it to get to the Supreme Court. These people are here for a lifetime, and the majority of the times they kick the can down the road, just like we do with North Korea. So, in my opinion, this lady can kick rocks, and she can kick herself down the road, because I'm not going to listen to anything that comes out of her mouth, nor her judgments at this point in time. So, I mean, go research her, go look at some of the cases she did. You'll be amazed at how many people disagree with her judgments about the Constitution and some of the cases she's tried.
Woke leftist activist judge?
I wouldn't even consider her left. I'd call her far left at this point.
Wow. Doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. In this day and age, I mean, if you're on the left, you have to go way left. Just out left each other. It's sad, but there it is. So to have Biden nominate someone like that just doesn't shock me at all. A bit. We'll see how that goes. We'll definitely pay close attention to the confirmation process, see where it takes us. It's, I don't know. I don't know how much the Republican senators will try to fight it, or if they'll just and go with it, or try to fight it pro forma, or what. You know, I've always had some kind of faith that the courts are where we're going to win this, but I don't know. At the very least, though, this doesn't change the current quote-unquote liberal to conservative ratio on the court. It maintains the status quo, so it doesn't give the libs a majority. That's a good thing. That is a tremendously good thing. But, you know, we do still have a wishy-washy or two or three, so we have some unproven, allegedly conservative justices. So it will be interesting to see how their rulings are going to come down. I wonder how this is going to affect the ruling on the MASRPA v. Bruin case. We'll see how that goes. In other news, I'm sure you guys have heard of this, you know, little spat over in Europe, this place called Ukraine. For those that have been living under a rock, Russia decided that it wants to rebuild its former Soviet Union glory. Of course, anyone who follows Vladimir Putin at all, pays any attention whatsoever to this, could have seen this coming a mile away. Putin was a KGB official, and he is definitely a hardline, old-school communist, a Soviet to the bone. So to have this sort of aggression when we have a president who shits himself really doesn't surprise me. Well, after threatening and threatening and threatening because, you know, Ukraine wanted to join NATO and Putin does not want a NATO country on its border, well, they invaded. As it turns out, unlike here in the U.S., private citizens had a difficult time getting firearms there. Till now, because, you know, once the Russians invade, I guess it's time to allow your citizenry to form their well-regulated militia because, you know, it is necessary to the security of a free state, isn't it? We know this, and apparently the government of the Ukraine just figured that out. It's a piece from Breitbart. A well-regulated militia. Ukraine gives guns to citizens to defend our country. The Ukrainian government will give weapons. This is from the 24th, by the way. The Ukrainian government will give weapons to anyone who wants to defend the country, it has said, in the aftermath of Russia expanding its war in the country's eastern territory. Amid reserve forces being mobilized and sent to fight the expanding Russian occupation of Ukraine's eastern territories, the Kiev government is taking steps to dramatically increase the supply of available fighters, promising to hand weapons to anyone willing to take up arms in defense of the nation. Joining the resistance is simple, too, the government says. All you need is your passport and a willingness to fight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made the call on Thursday morning, hours after Russia's Putin announced his forces would be entering the Ukrainian territories it had declared to be independent republics, using the alleged widespread presence of neo-Nazis in the region as a pretext for military action. Just as a side note, isn't it strange how communists of any stripe, whether they be the domestic Antifa types or these foreign communist Soviet types, want to blame Nazis for everything as an excuse for their shit behavior? Just kind of a interesting thing. I wonder if it's in their handbook or something. Addressing the Ukrainian people, Zelensky said, "We will give weapons to anyone who wants to defend the country. Be ready to support Ukraine in the squares of our cities." As Breitbart News has already reported, the Ukrainian armed forces have a considerable stockpile of weapons relative to its number of soldiers and comparatively low levels of legal civilian firearm ownership. Government press agency Ukrinform followed up on these remarks, quoting the president as having said that this process of giving out weapons to civilians to defend the nation had already commenced and would be extended to anyone who wants and is able to defend Ukraine. Ukraine's defense minister, Oleksiy Reznikov, gave clear instructions for how citizens could get involved, saying the state had simplified all procedures and that volunteers need only take their passport. I guess now they're taking anybody, whether you're from there or not, they don't care. You go there, they'll give you a gun if they have one, because I guess they're running out, and they'll send you to fight. In return, he said, we give weapons to all patriots who are without hesitation ready to use them against the enemy. The general invitation for Ukrainians to take up arms to defend themselves from Russian aggression comes after weeks of developments leading to this point, including civilian volunteers receiving training from the nation's territorial defense establishment, the Army Reserve. While pictures from these official training sessions have been flashed around the world, there has been controversy surrounding programs conducted by extremist groups like the Azov Battalion, which gained some press interest for training a Babushka Battalion. President Zelensky has locked horns with Azov groups in the past, demanding they surrender illegally held weapons in 2019. Well, I bet he's glad they didn't do that now, huh? Yesterday, the Ukraine's parliament passed a bill considerably liberalizing ownership of firearms for civilians and making explicitly clear this change in law was in response to the dangers the country faced. As reported, the bill establishes the basic rights and responsibilities of individuals, liberalizes ownership, but also increases responsibility for their illegal use. Civilian gun shops had sold out of some popular models such as AR-10 and AR-15 rifles this week. I mean, they've got everybody fighting, doctors, lawyers, teachers, even frickin' Miss Ukraine in the Miss Universe competition. Even the president himself and the mayor of Kiev are on the lines fighting. So, you know, it's almost like they're discovering, as I said, what we already know. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Too bad they weren't like us already, because they would have already had a rifle behind every blade of grass. What do you guys think about that?
I think that the antis could twist this and use it against us.
Well, I know that the media seems to be applauding it. Crazy enough. The people that are applauding it are the ones that have been trying to get ours taken from us. Go figure.
Right, but the government is arming the citizens. Mm-hmm. So you could see Biden coming on TV going, you see this? You see this? If there was really a national emergency, we would provide you with the guns, so you don't need your own guns.
Yeah. And they might try that shit. They are dumb enough.
Now, as far as them taking anybody that'll fight, will they like validate parking or anything? Because it's like, if they'll pay for the airfare, I'll go over there.
Should have figured.
I'm not kidding. If I didn't need a passport, and I didn't need, well, they already said in the story you need a passport, but if I could somehow fast track a passport and I ain't got to get the Fauci ouchie and they'll fly me there and fly me home, I'll go over.
They said they were giving out passports.
Apparently, they're inflicting pretty heavy casualties on the Soviets, or Russians as well.
Yeah, but they haven't unleashed shit yet. We haven't.
No.
This is just, I look at this as they don't want to tear up that infrastructure. They thought these people were going to roll, but there's some hardliners in Ukraine. But they don't want to tear up the infrastructure because they got to pay for it. If they're going to own that land, they're going to have to pay for that land. They're not going to level everything. They're not doing that, man. It ain't going to be like Afghanistan and Iraq, dude, where we leveled everything and then we had to rebuild it all. They're not going to do that. I mean, they're smart enough to understand that because they don't want to pay for it. They're already sanctioned, so they're not going to have any money to rebuild.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
they're taking.
Go ahead.
They're trying to take over the country. They want as much of it intact as possible because of what it's worth and what it would cost to rebuild it and things like that. That doesn't mean that they won't use extreme measures if they have to, but these people that seem to think that they're going to carpet bomb the country or nuke it or something, like, no, they're not going to do that. Now, the firepower that can be delivered by a gunship or by an attack aircraft or a bomber or by a tank or armored personnel carrier or different things like that, that can do a lot of damage. There's somebody was talking about standing on the roof of a building, dropping Molotov cocktails on the tanks. That's going to do anything other than piss them off. And they come flying overhead with a hind and strafe you. But the thing is, even though there's that sort of firepower to contend with, at the end of the day, they have to have boots on the ground. So when it's hand to hand and man on man and house to house and all that other stuff, when they actually have to say, when I see Soviet tanks parked in the streets in Kiev, then I'll say that, yeah, they're winning the war. But until that, the fact that you have an individual with small arms that can work by themselves or in small groups and use urban warfare tactics to repel the invaders.
That's apparently what's happening.
Yeah, you can have as many fighter jets as you want, helicopter gunships and tanks. Those are going to have a major impact, but you still have to you need to be able to have troops standing on the street corner. If they can't do that, then they haven't successfully taken over the country. Because there are going to be the people that say you can't shoot down a MiG with a rifle. And, if it's coming in low enough, you might get a lucky shot, but no. I get that.
Understand, the Russians haven't achieved air superiority yet. They haven't even managed that. Yeah,
which helps. But like what Rokal says, they're also not going to go in there. They could fly down Main Street and lay waste to Kiev. And if they do that, that's going to cost them.
Yeah.
And they've got to be smart about it. Busting some windows and putting some holes in some walls, that ain't going to be so bad. But I think also, too, the harder they come in there, the more resistance they're going to get from these people. So this is where that whole Second Amendment thing comes in. When the antis are going, see, you can't take your rifle and your handgun and fight against F-15s and nukes. I beg to differ.
Listen, you don't have to kill the tank to take it out of action. I hope everybody understands that. You kill its logistics train. You attack the fuel trucks. You attack the ammo trucks. You attack the trucks that have the mechanics in it, the tool trucks. You take the logistics train out, the softer targets, and eventually the tank's going to run out of fuel, spare parts, and people who can actually maintain it. You ain't got to kill the tank. You kill the guys that fix the tank.
Well, from reports that I've seen, they don't even have enough gas to get around the countryside.
Well,
so, I mean,
did you see that about the the Soviet vehicle that ran out of fuel, and a Ukrainian offered to tow it back to the border?
Yeah. Well, they showed another one today where a farmer hooked his tractor up and took a personnel carrier from him. He just ran out of gas. So, I mean, again, these troops that they're sending in there. These are 18, 19-year-old kids, man. These ain't the hardened, hardcore fighters. I mean, they did send some Chechens in there, but
I heard they got decimated.
They got decimated, and Chechnya was like, well, we're not going to do that anymore. So, I mean, that's the thing. They don't have enough experience there. They're underqualified to do this. And then these kids that are there, man, they don't want to be there. They were just told to go there. So, I mean, in essence, man, this was something that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, and it's a shame. Don't get me wrong. I don't think these people should suffer the consequence for some guy that wants to live in 1980 or 1960 again. But I mean, what are we gonna do? This isn't our fight. You know who this is the fight for? The globalists. The people that laundered their money in Ukraine the people that put this guy in power and put all these people in there. See, what a lot of these Trumpers and these stand with Ukraine people don't understand, this guy jailed his opponents for the election to be elected. That's not democracy of what, yeah, that's not democracy. That's being tyrannical. So, I mean, that place has had problems ever since our government installed that government in there. And that's a problem. And I feel sorry for the people. But like I said on my live show, and I'll say on this stream, I'm not sending my kids there. I'll Anne Frank them. I'll dig a hole and bury them and feed them food. When you come for my kids, they're not here. It's that simple. My kids are not going to bear the brunt of this because the globalists, Joe Biden, and all these people, Mitt Romney, all these people have connections to the Ukraine. This is where they siphon off money. This is where they go and launder money because the Ukrainian government let them do that. And that's not my kids' problem. That's the globalist problem. But they shouldn't be involved in any type of conflict there. So that's how I feel about it. It's a shame. These people are going to suffer. But that's not my problem right now. My problem is my own government being tyrannical and watching these people defend themselves makes me want to go out and buy another gun. You know, it makes me want to go out and buy more ammunition. It makes me want to go and knock on my neighbor's door and say, hey, come out and shoot. Let's shoot some targets. Let's get better. You know, that's what this tells me. This doesn't tell me to send, you know, my comrades, if you want to call them that, to go fight this war. This has nothing to do with us. This has to do with them. This is going to create a buffer zone between mainland Russia and the UN. That's all he wants this for. That and some precious metals and some other farmland that's over there.
There's a large part of me that agrees with you, but there's also a large part of me that doesn't. Because I can't help but, for those that don't know, I'm kind of a history buff, a history geek, history nerd, whatever. I've always loved history, and I study it. I can't help but think that back in the 30s, when good old Adolf was gobbling up the Sudetenland and then gobbled up Czechoslovakia, that nobody did shit. Because gobbling up the one, he just said, well, hey, they didn't do nothing with that. I'm going to gobble up another. So far, we've had Russia gobble up the Crimean region. And now, okay, well, let's gobble up Ukraine. Where does it stop? I can't help but wonder that had someone stopped Adolf back then early, if things wouldn't have gotten as horrific as they did for World War II. And while I don't want our country in a war, particularly not with a nuclear power, who has intercontinental ballistic missiles, who probably has weaponized satellites. Let's be real, we probably do too. Oh yes, treaty says we can't, but let's be real. They have the capacity to hurt us really bad. But on the other hand, if we just say, now, stop that. Now, stop that. Oh, Vladimir, now, stop that. And that's all we do? Where does it end? Are we allowing something to happen that could lead to something worse, or should we just kick it in the balls right now and be done with it? I don't know. That's the question to me as far as U.S. intervention in this. Now, of course, I think that we should intervene as far as sending supplies, as far as logistics, and help out with stuff like that. Absolutely. I know the EU even is going to be sending weapons and is sending weapons and material to them. Other private organizations are sending weapons and material to them. So I have I have no problem with that because I think that, give them the tools to help themselves, right? But as far as actual U.S. troops on the ground, airstrikes, whatever, man, I really don't know what the right call here is, and I'm glad that I'm not in a position to have to make that call.
Well, I ask you this. How far would it go?
I don't know.
NATO, all the countries border the other side of the Ukraine that's in NATO. Mm-hmm. The only other place he has to go is down south to Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan and all those places. And we already know those people are already somewhat aligned with Russia, along with Belarus. I mean, is he actually going to go into NATO territory? That's suicide. I'm not scared of nuclear weapons. I'm scared of him going into NATO territory. I'm scared of him rolling over the border of Poland.
Yeah,
that would create World War III. Him taking Ukraine. Oh well, take Ukraine. That has nothing to do with me. We barely get stuff out of Ukraine. I've researched it. There's little to nothing that we get there. But the globalists get everything out of there. That's not my problem. Does he have the gall into NATO lands when he can't even take major cities in Ukraine without using some kind of devastating measure? I mean, come on. They can't roll their tanks. They're running out of gas. Citizens are just pulling up, making fun of these guys. I mean, come on. This is, let him bury himself. Let him bury himself. Well, he can barely fight this war on all these fronts he's opened up. Let him go into another country like Kyrgyzstan. You think those people are going to put up with him? He's going to drain so much of his resource. He's going to have to start spending his gold. This guy, if you guys didn't know, Vladimir Putin has a ton of gold. And when I mean a ton of gold, he is almost the richest man in the world when it comes to dictators. So he's going to have to cash that stuff in. And where's he going to cash it in at? He doesn't have a market to cash it in. He's going to have to find something else.
They've already frozen the Russia's ability to trade in U.S. dollars and anything else, and the ruble is free falling because of the economic sanctions against them. Their economy is in a shit spiral right now.
Yeah, and they kicked those banks out of SWIFT. So, I mean, he's doing it to himself. This is the fall of Vladimir Putin. Enjoy it. Now,
Seven asks, what do you think about Putin's vague threat to use nukes? I don't think he is that foolish. I would hope he isn't, but I never underestimate the stupidity of an egomaniacal fucking jackass like this.
Nobody's using nukes.
Seven,
I hope not.
That is called desperation. That is desperation because he's getting handed to in Ukraine, and now he feels the pressure from the world. This is called desperation. This is what happens when somebody gets desperate. They have to go to another measure. I mean, just like coyotes. When coyotes get caught in a trap, when any kind of animal like that gets caught in a trap, what do you think their desperation is to get out of the trap? They're going to have to gnaw their whole paw off to get out of the trap. He's in a trap. And this is the only way he can gnaw his way out of this trap is to threaten nuclear conflict.
Now, what I hope is that if he actually gives the order, the generals will say, yeah, no, we're not going to do that over this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody there would want that at all. Who wants to live in a place where you can't breathe, you can't grow your crops, you can't live? So if you win the war, where are you going to live? Underground? What are we going back to? Demolition Man? I mean, people don't understand. When nuclear bombs were let off in World War II, that was some of the most powerful things that generation has ever seen. If you let a modern day nuke off in this type of environment nowadays, it destroys everything. Imagine 3 of them going off. You would not be able to live in this world again amongst the premise that you live in it now. It's just not going to happen. Nobody wants that. And definitely the rich people. Do you think the rich people would allow this guy to set a nuke off?
I would hope not too, but you never know. You never know what this guy's going to do. He's running out of options, and this is one of his ploys. This is one of the nuclear weapons. How many times has he done this? He said this 1,000 times. He's done it 1,000 times. Maybe 1,001 is his last straw. We don't know, but he's floundering. This is the fall of this guy's grace. He's been there for what 2-3 decades or something like that. Yeah, he's been there for a while. This is the end of this man. This is it. Whether he gets that desperate or not, I think somebody would get rid of him before it comes down to that. And they take his spot, and then you'd have to worry about the next one. Just like how the Taliban was, just like how ISIS was. You get rid of one of these guys, somebody else pops up. You get rid of that guy, somebody else pops up. That's just the way it goes. Now we got to see if these people are willing to stop this guy, if he comes to that conclusion in his mind. That's the real key. You can sit here and try and predict a person's move. It's just like when we use a gun. We carry a gun for a reason, because we can't predict that person's move, whether they want to rob us or take our stuff or hurt our family. But we have that option. That's a deterrent. Nuclear weapons have always been a deterrent. What really got Ukraine into a mess is, if you're a history buff like Mike and me and some of the other people, Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons to become an independent country. That was one of the dealios they had to do this. And the United States convinced them to do it. So if Ukraine had nuclear weapons at this point, you think Vladimir Putin would have invaded there? Probably not.
No,
probably not. Probably not. So, I mean, this thing has been snowballing since the late 80s, early 90s. Basically from when Russia started losing a ton of land and people broke away from them. And I fault NATO to a certain standard for accepting these weak countries into NATO, like Latvia, like some of those other countries to the north of Ukraine. Why do you think all these soldiers are going to these places? Because they don't have a military that can fend off Russia. It's even smaller than what Ukraine has. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but stop accepting these people. What we have to be the big brother to everybody? Sooner or later, they're going to roll these people. And we're going to drain all our resources like we did for 20 years in Afghanistan, like we did for 13 years in Iraq or whatever it was. We're going to drain ourselves. We're self-sustaining as a country. Russia is not. They've never been.
No. And with the economic effects of this happening, I think they're going to learn that lesson real quick. It seems that the Ukraine isn't the only ones coming to the realization that, guns preserve your freedom, because there was an analyst on CNN who, I'm shocked CNN aired this, who came to the same conclusion. Let's check this out. This is from the gun feed. Whoa! CNN admits that civilian gun ownership is vital to the security of a free state. This is a tweet from John Berman. It says, just now, the Ukrainians will fight like hell. If every Ukrainian takes a gun, Russians don't have a prayer. I mean, the military can fight, but Ukrainians are really ready today. This is a video I'm going to play from CNN.
One of the things that we've heard from Ukrainian officials over the last few hours is, diplomacy is still our first goal here. Preventing further Russian incursion without fighting is our first goal. But if it gets past that, we'll fight for every inch of territory in every city.
And they will.
So how bloody do you think this can get? How much fight do you think the Ukrainians have here?
I think Ukrainians have 150%, 500% fight. I mean, they're going to...
Listen to this part real careful, what she says.
...to fight like hell. And actually, they just passed a law in which guns are allowed to be used in freely in Ukraine. So that is a preparation. So if every Ukrainian takes a gun, Russians don't have a prayer. I mean, the military can fight, but it would be Ukrainians, I think, really ready to die. That's why I continue to insist that big incursion, and that's where, once again, from my point of view, diplomacy was wrong. Diplomacy was wrong to say Putin is going to go in Kyiv, because he lost grip on reality, but he's not suicidal. He's not. He wants to go in history as a defender of the Russian lands and kind of gather out some degree, but he doesn't want to go into history as the creator of another war, because no Russian, even the most patriotic ones, want to fight right now.
One of the things.
Unfortunately, a lot of them are fighting, but they don't seem to be doing very well. This lady gets it. Nina Khrushcheva, professor of international affairs. A rifle behind every blade of grass, folks. I mean, that's it. That's all you need to know. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is why, folks. This is why. Not just to protect yourself from the burglar, the carjacker, the home invader, the angry ex of your current significant other. Oh no, oh no, oh no. It is to defend your liberty from threats both foreign and domestic. That's the primary purpose. And it seems like we're not the only ones that get it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, go ask Mom's demand action then.
Yeah, Mom's demand attention is aggravating. Yes, 7 CNN said that, kind of. They allowed that to be aired by a guest on, to be said by a guest on their show, and they aired it. So, yeah.
That just shows how weak those people are. They know we're right, but they just don't want to admit that we're right. Because if they admit that they're right, then that opens, Pandora's box. This is how it's always been. They'll never directly admit that we should have firearms and we should have weapon grade firearms. They'll never do that, but they'll teeter around it. They'll tiptoe it.
Oh yeah.
That anti-Second Amendment relative, that anti-Second Amendment coworker, that anti-Second Amendment neighbor who is proud, they boast that they vote for the people that want to take away all of our liberties, not just yours, but theirs too. If something terrible ever happened in this country and there was wide-scale civil unrest coast to coast, law enforcement and military couldn't deal with it. It was every person for themselves. They'd be knocking on your door asking for one of your extra guns. I hope you tell them no.
I have already told people who have made comments like, well, if something happens, I'm coming to your house. I've already told them, well, you just join the bodies on the sidewalk because I'd shoot you too.
Yeah,
I'm a cold bastard like that.
I've flat out told the people that I know that have made those comments that, once again, like I said, boast that they vote for the people that take away all of our liberties. Don't think you're invited over here if something that bad were to happen. Now, I don't think that it will happen, but we've seen it on a smaller scale. All it's going to take is a few more steps, and it could turn into something like that. I mean, We've seen some crazy crap in the past 2 years, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Massive civil unrest. That would have taken very little to become even more massive. There are a select few people that I would take in, because I've had these conversations with my friends about preparing at least minimally for things like this. And there are very few people that I would take in, maybe a couple, that don't have some sort of preparations in place because they have a skill that I might need that I don't have. Other than that, if you have done nothing now, to prepare yourself if you've done nothing to make yourself anything other than a burden, I got nothing for you. You're just another marauder to me. That's how I see it. But again, I'm a cold bastard when it comes to things like that.
I don't blame you. I mean, how many people have I cut out of my life over the years that were all you care about is guns? And it's not that all I care about is guns. I care about my Second Amendment rights. And if this treachery would ever happen to me, and those people, I don't give them the time of day. I don't talk to them at the grocery store. I don't talk to them whenever. You know, they're gonna single me out because, you know, I sell firearms, or, you know, I care about my Second Amendment rights. Guess what? If anything would happen, don't come to my house. And if you do and you have a bunch of stuff, I'm probably gonna take it from you and send you on your way. That's how I feel. I don't associate myself with these people anymore.
Yep. The ant and the grasshopper, folks. Be an ant.
It'll be interesting to see what happens to Ukraine after this. If they decide to keep things where the general public has a lot better access to firearms, training, et cetera, and if maybe they decide to be like their neighbors in Poland and maybe have a prepping community there. You never know.
You know, I got to wonder, when this is done, let's say, just for sake of argument, for hypotheticals, that Ukraine wins. They repel the Russian hordes and they retain their independence. How many of these rifles are going to be lost in combat? Because I can tell you every single weapon I would get my hands on would have been lost in combat somewhere. Just in case.
Oh, definitely.
Think about all the weapons that they're taking off of these dead Russian soldiers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It ain't just the ones getting issued that, I don't know, I dropped it in the river. It's all the crap that you can pick up. Just go through one of those armored personnel carriers that they abandoned, you know?
Yep.
And get yourself some other gear in there too. I'm kind of hoping some of it hit the surplus market.
Yeah, I know, right? Seven says, I won't leave my house because of wifey and the kitties, but I don't think you'd actually shoot me if you knew it was me at your doorstep. Don't come empty-handed. Make sure I know it's a friendly.
There's a patch. There's a patch that you can wear.
Yes.
It's a big G with the shape of a gun built into it. We'll know you're one of the good guys.
Yes.
So if you don't have one of those patches, you might want to get one.
Shit, speaking of patches, I don't have one of my own in reach. I'll be damned. Of course, you've got one of mine, so, you know, wear that and I'll know you're a friendly. That's all I can say. In other news, you guys know that I have spoken extensively on my disdain for the mainstream media, my contempt for the fact that they lie and spread misinformation and disinformation, just as they accuse everyone else of doing, without any accountability whatsoever. Well, you know, during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and before, they did a complete smear job on this kid. Well, Kyle is striking back. This is from newsbusters.org. It says Rittenhouse launches the Media Accountability Project to sue for defamation, by Nicholas Fondacaro from February 21st. In a Monday appearance on Fox News Channel's Tucker Carlson Tonight, liberal media hate object Kyle Rittenhouse went beyond just announcing he was suing the media for the lies they spewed about him. Instead, he and his legal team had set up an organization, the Media Accountability Project, that would take up his cases and the cases of others who the media heinously targeted with lies and misinformation in an attempt to ruin their lives. And that's exactly what Rittenhouse promised ahead of the appearance. Accountability is coming, he exclaimed multiple times in tweets. Such lawsuits were hinted at back in November when Rittenhouse told Carlson he felt the media were defaming him and hurting his future. Me and my team have decided to launch the Media Accountability Project as a tool to help fundraise and hold the media accountable for the lies they said and deal with them in court, he told Carlson Monday night. Carlson was curious as to why there wasn't already an organization that handled this kind of thing already. Rittenhouse didn't know, but he was adamant that he didn't want other innocent people to be victimized by the liberal media. Carlson: why isn't there a group like this that exists already, since the media so often are not observers, they're players, they're participants in the news? Why hasn't someone done this before? Rittenhouse: that's a good question, Tucker, and I'm not sure, to be honest, but I don't want to see anybody else have to deal with what I went through. So I want to hold them accountable for what they did to me, because I don't want to see anybody have to go through what I went through. On his short list of people the organization is looking to sue on his behalf, Rittenhouse said they're looking at quite a few politicians, celebrities, athletes. Whoopi Goldberg is on the list. That specific call out of Goldberg was because she called me a murderer after I was acquitted by a jury of my peers. That also included Cenk from the Young Turks. They called me a murderer before a verdict and continues to call me a murderer. And for those who called him a white supremacist, Rittenhouse warned they're all going to be held accountable and we're going to handle them in a courtroom. In a Daily Mail op-ed from before the end of the Rittenhouse show trial, former Covington Catholic High School student Nicholas Sandman advised Rittenhouse on how to go about suing the media and how to prepare himself for the trials and tribulations. Again, the chances are still low and nothing is guaranteed in a defamation trial. Kyle should also be prepared for a long trial, which will be present in his mind for years, Sandman said, noting that he still had 6 outstanding suits after 3 years. So, if Kyle is prepared to take on another burden in his early life, with the acceptance that it might result in nothing, I answer, give it a shot and hold the media accountable. Many suspected that Rittenhouse would be taking on the liberal media machine by himself, but few foresaw an organization dedicated to combating the media's lies to spring from it. The transcript is below. Click expand the read. So you can go to the website, which is newsbusters.org, find this article, and read a transcript of the whole thing. So there you go, folks. Kyle Rittenhouse is part of an organization being launched, the Media Accountability Project, to hold these wonderful people in the mainstream media accountable for their lies, misinformation, and disinformation. You guys think that this is about damn time? And do you think that they have a hope in hell of getting anywhere with it?
I'm kind of skeptical. I saw that interview.
Color me surprised.
Huh?
Said, color me surprised. Squibb is skeptical?
Oh. Yeah. At the end of the interview, he started e-begging.
Oh, did
so
he?
to me, he's just looking to cash in. Now, if I see results, I'll change my opinion. But right now, I'm just skeptical. The thing is, I don't know how he's really going to get
money.
Yeah, I mean, half of YouTube does it, so why not? Anyhow, I think in principle this sounds like a good thing. But how they're going to differentiate between, say, you and Whoopi Goldberg, I don't know. Because if you think about it, it's a slippery slope in some ways. Anybody who's out there and says anything, whether it's an intentional, it's meant to intentionally be misleading, or it's just a mistake or slip of the tongue. If something like this works out, I could see more people trying to do it, and it could come back to bite all of us. So I'm just I'm skeptical on that, and I'm skeptical that it's not just some scam. The other thing is that I think that these people should be held accountable because of their stature, because of what they do for a living and the masses they reach and the influence they have. Now, how do you legislate that? Do you say, well, if you make a certain amount of money, or if you work for a media company, or if you're in the Actors Guild, or if you have over 1 million subscribers on social media or something. I mean, do they set certain criteria to keep the small guy out of it? Or, I mean, you see, there's a lot of problems in thinking about this. There's a lot of problems I see. So let's just see if he actually does something, and if that harms anybody else, if it backfires, and let's just see if he's just going to take the money and run too.
Ro, do you have an opinion?
I can get to the mute button. Good luck. Cheerio. Have a great one. Do something with your life other than cry. Enjoy your freedom, you ungrateful little bastard.
For what is he ungrateful?
Well, he should be grateful that he didn't go to jail. He should be grateful he's not sitting in a federal prison for straw purchasing a firearm, allegedly. I guess that was taken care of. Don't be ungrateful, you know? When Santa gives you a gift, don't open the gift and say, this isn't what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Do you, if you want to sue these people, just remember they have gobs upon gobs upon gobs of money. And you don't.
That's why you sue them.
Well, we've seen the
pockets.
courts here. We've seen the courts here lately, and they don't favor people as much as they used to. When, you know, it's legitimate. I'll give him that. You know, but I seen his interview. Yeah, I should sue Joe Biden. Dude, if they won't put his kid in jail for straw purchasing or
good luck suing him.
4473 and stealing money, how are you going to get anything out of that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, be realistic here. You know, enjoy your freedoms. You know what he should be doing? He should be taking money in to advocate of what not to do and to teach younger kids of what not to do. If he wants to go this route and try and sue these people, more power to you. Me, I'd be at home thinking about what I'm going to do next in my life. Maybe find a girl and settle down and buy a farm.
So you just want the whole thing to go away. You wouldn't try to hold them accountable for the shit.
It's not that. I think I know where Roe's going. We talked about this before. After he was acquitted, remember we said he should kind of be quiet and disappear?
Yeah.
You know, I asked the question, is he the new face of 2A? And you guys were like, no. And if he draws attention to himself and it turns out to be negative attention, it's going to come back on all of us.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be better if he took some time, and as he gets older, more mature. I mean, if you listen to the way he talked, he has no professional or public speaking skills at all. He was repeating himself and everything else like that, right? I just think that if this isn't something that he wants to do, this is something maybe even somebody conned him into doing. So they could take all the money and he's just the face. And then he gets used and embarrassed. And I agree with Roe. He should try to stay under the radar. I thought somebody was going to pay for his college or something. You know, go disappear, come back later. But understand, when you do come back, if you want to be the face of 2A or something else, just understand that comes with risk and consequences.
CloverTack is of the opinion that he's being used by lawyers and stuff. Same exact thing they do to young people in the spotlight all the time. Nothing new.
Dude, if Whoopi Goldberg can go on national television and say the Holocaust was all about white people and nothing ever happened to her, how are you going to justify suing that broad? When has Hollywood
Well, you can justify it, but you won't be successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, how are you ever going to you can't. Hollywood's never. Is Alec Baldwin in prison yet? Is he on trial? No. So, I mean, you give it a go. Like I said, give it a go, kid. Good luck to you. I hope you do drain their bank accounts. But again, you know, it's not my problem. I mean, come on. Let's look at it that way. I'm not anti-Kyle Rittenhouse. I think he was sham, bamboozled, wamadajows. Don't get me wrong. But yet,
What was that?
rich people,
What was that word?
until rich
Wamadajows?
people, yeah, and until rich people be held accountable for their actions, it won't ever happen. We don't live in that type of society right now. I mean, unless these movie stars kill somebody like the Spectre guy and the other people, I mean, them just saying that you're a piece of crap, it's not gonna go your way. These people got too much pull. If some other movie star wants to get involved in this and help this kid, go for it. I think they should be held accountable, but Hollywood has never been held accountable for anything they've ever done. And they've damaged society in a lot of things that they've done, but they're never held accountable. The only time that you hear Hollywood crying is when they don't win an award or some high-profile case that they don't agree with because it doesn't in line with their politics. I mean, come on, man. It's just like Sean Penn over there in Afghanistan doing a documentary. Well, this is the same guy that went over to Russia and said Russia was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Dude, don't fall in the
now is
trap.
in Ukraine trying to say, hey, fight the Russians? Come on.
Yeah.
Didn't Penn's boat sink when he was trying to rescue the people at Katrina?
I think
Yeah.
He should have gone down with the ship.
I'm
Yes,
just saying.
Spicoli's desperately trying to stay relevant.
Good luck to him. He got a bad rap, and I get it, dude, that he's mad. But sometimes it just has to be water under the bridge. It's too big. It's too big. When I look at an extra large pizza, I think I can eat it all. But when I get through 2 pieces, I'm full. Be grateful for what God has given you or whoever you believe in. I believe in the baby Jesus because I think he's so docile and you can hold him with one hand. But be grateful for what you have. Go on with your life. Do something really positive. Now he's turning something that was really great for him into another negative by trying to stay in the media and trying to sue people that never are ever held accountable.
Clover points out that in libel and slander suits, you gotta prove loss. He's a kid, so what losses can he prove? And potential future speculated losses don't count. And he's right on that.
Yep.
Matter of fact, potential future speculative stuff is going to play a part in another segment we have coming up. So, yeah. Time for some good news, folks. Alabama is one step closer to constitutional carry. This is from the
just rub it in Roll Call's face.
Mm-hmm.
Real good. Alabama got it, but Indiana didn't.
This is from the NRA ILA. House passes constitutional carry from February 22nd. Today, the House voted 65-37 to pass House Bill 272, the constitutional carry bill. This marks the first time that constitutional carry has passed the House. It will now move on to the Senate, which has passed similar legislation before and has also stated that they will act on it promptly. Please contact your state senator and ask them to support HB 272. NRA thanks lead sponsor Representative Shane Stringer for introducing this legislation, Representative Andrew Sorrell for championing constitutional carry for several years, Chairman Mike Jones for his tireless work on HB 272, and the Speaker of the House, Mac McCutcheon, for his exceptional leadership. Constitutional carry strengthens Alabamans' right to self-defense by allowing any law-abiding adult who is at least 21 years old and legally eligible to obtain a concealed carry permit to carry a handgun without first having to obtain government permission. This ensures that citizens have their right to self-defense without red tape, delays, or fees. It does not change who is eligible to obtain a carry permit. It also does not affect previously issued permits and allows citizens who still wish to obtain a permit in order to carry in other states recognizing Alabama's permits to do so. Again, please contact your state senator immediately and ask them to support HB 272. Speaking of constitutional, first off, congratulations, Alabama. Hopefully your Senate acts upon it. Speaking of constitutional carry, Ohio's constitutional carry bill The Senate version is moving through the House. There have been several hearings. Apparently, though, there are hearings scheduled tomorrow to add amendments to it. So that's not a good thing. Typically, amendments are where bills go to die in Ohio. So we'll see. I'd suspect some rhinos are going to try to insert something in there to try to kill this. We'll see how that goes. So, congrats, Alabama Buckeyes. Contact your senator or your representatives today, tonight. Leave them a voicemail early in the morning. Call them and tell them this crap needs to go. We need to get rid of these amendments bullshit, and we need to get a vote on the floor on the pure bill. Damn it. But good for you guys in Alabama anyway.
And roll call, you posted an announcement. You're either doing a live stream or a video about constitutional carry.
Yeah, I'm going to do a live stream after we get done with this show. Hopefully it doesn't really kill the vibes of anybody else's show. But it's strictly towards people that live in the state of Indiana. So, I mean, if you want to go watch something else, that's something else. But there's a lot of disturbing stuff that I've seen over the past week or so at the shop where Hoosiers are just not informed. And I don't care what anybody says. Some people will be like, well, you got a YouTube channel. That doesn't mean a darn thing. Old people and some young people, they don't do YouTube unless it's a how-to. That's how that goes. And for the Hoosiers in my state, I warned you, and I warned you, and I warned you. And it doesn't add up. But when you go around and start telling your friends and family that constitutional carry was already implemented or it passed, you're utterly wrong. And I'll call that out. I don't care about my job. It doesn't matter. But you're going to get somebody in trouble, and then we're going to have a bigger problem in our hand because you have the wrong information. Always research what you're doing. Sometimes I get it wrong, and I'll be the first one to tell you that I get stuff wrong. That's why I pay Sean, the researcher, in stakes, folks, so I don't get stuff wrong. So he can research this stuff for me, and I can put out correct information because I'm not the end-all, be-all of it, especially for the state of Indiana. But it's been very discouraging over the past 4 days where people do not know that. And I told these people, tune into my live show. I'm not even telling you to join Patreon or give me something or nothing. Just tune in so I can educate you. That's what I do when I'm at my gun counter. I don't tell you what you should do, but I'll educate you and help you further your education and your mind with what's going on. And they're just not paying attention. And it's going to get somebody pinched, and then we're going to have a problem in the state. And I'm going to talk about the local gun show stuff too. But that's what it's going to be.
Well, there you go, folks. Go check that out after we're done here. There's some other good news nationally that probably won't go anywhere, but it's a nice thought. This is from roy.house.gov from Chip Roy, U.S. Congress, 21st District of Texas. Representative Roy introduces bill to close loophole in National Firearms Act from February 23rd. On Tuesday, Representative Chip Roy, alongside more than 20 colleagues, introduced the No Backdoor Gun Control Act. This legislation would remove any other weapon from the definition of a firearm under the National Firearms Act, ensuring that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives could not use the AOW section to violate Americans' Second Amendment rights. This is especially important should legislation that removes short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns from the NFA be enacted. Closing this loophole is an important step forward in reining in the ATF. Bearing arms in self-defense is a human right. It is evident from the ATF's behavior that, under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the agency is hell-bent on attacking the Second Amendment through every means at its disposal. I am grateful for my colleagues' work in Congress to remove short-barreled rifles and shotguns from regulation under the National Firearms Act. However, should that legislation be successful in doing so, the NFA's any other weapon provision would still allow an anti-gun administration to use the ATF to unilaterally regulate these firearms and, more importantly, target their owners. The No Backdoor Gun Control Act would close this notable loophole and help protect law-abiding gun owners, Representative Roy said. The federal government has no business taxing and registering privately owned firearms with a catch-all term like any other weapon or AOW. With the Biden administration weaponizing definitions from the draconian National Firearms Act of 1934 to ban as many as 40 million lawfully acquired guns like AR-15s, Representative Chip Roy's repeal of federal AOW regulations could not come at a better time, said Aidan Johnson, Director of Federal Affairs, Gun Owners of America. The No Backdoor Gun Control Act removes AOWs from the definition of a firearm under the NFA, ensures that AOW owners are treated as having met requirements of state licensing laws that reference the NFA, requires the DOJ to destroy AOW registration records. The legislation is co-sponsored by Representatives Daniel Webster, Lauren Boebert, Tom Tiffany, Louis Gohmert, Ted Budd, Dan Crenshaw, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ken Buck, Michael Cloud, Matt Rosendale, Jody Heiss, Ralph Norman, Scott Perry, Alex X. Mooney, Randy Weber, Diana Hirschberger, Jeff Duncan, Bob Good, Jeff Van Drew, Thomas Massey, Michelle Fishbach, and Mary Miller. I'm very upset to see no Ohioans on that list. Damn them. This legislation is supported by Gun Owners of America and National Association of Gun Rights. So, there you go, folks. There's at least a symbolic attempt to get something off the NFA. We know it's not going to pass the Senate, even if it does pass the House, but it's a nice thought. Am I being too pessimistic, or do you guys think I'm right on the nose with that one?
I don't think it will pass, but I think it's a good effort, and I think we need to keep doing things like this, you know, the Hearing Protection Act and whatnot, because I think if we give up at trying to plug away at it, take it apart one piece at a time, we're never going to get anything done with it.
True. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I think it's a good symbol. I would love to see something come of it, but I think you're right. I think we need to keep plugging away at it, because we need to really ultimately the goal should be to repeal the NFA, because, you know, it's just downright stupid. Speaking of downright stupid.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
First up in Moron of the Week is this wonderful guest on MSNBC. So, yeah. MSNBC guest just said Ukrainians can't find knee pads, and it's something you need to shoot a gun. So, yeah, it's from a tweet by Grant B911 has a video clip from MSNBC. Let's take a listen to this.
Talking about, by the way, that they don't have enough civilian defense to do that. One of the calls I was on today a few hours ago saying silly things, not silly things, but pretty pedestrian things like knee pads, which you need to shoot a gun. There's no knee pads. And so those are the kinds of things just everyday Ukrainians are thinking about in terms of preparing for what I think will be a pretty disastrous next hours and days and weeks to come.
I don't know. Maybe his hobbies necessitate the use of knee pads, but shooting a gun doesn't. So Asinine Analyst is the first contestant on Moron of the Week. But wait, as usual, there's more. There is at least, well, as Yoda said, there is another. This is from WKTV.com. Listen to this, folks. This is where I'm talking about potential future losses, potential future stuff comes in play. Guns overtake car crashes as leading cause of U.S. trauma-related deaths, study says. Let's see how they arrive at this, because we're not talking about more people are killed in car crashes with guns than are in car crashes. No, we're not talking about numbers of deaths. Firearm deaths have overtaken car crashes as the leading cause of death by trauma in the U.S., according to a new study. In 2017, there were 1.44 million years of potential life lost due to firearm deaths, edging out that of motor vehicle crashes, 1.37 million years, according to the study published Tuesday in the journal Trauma Surgery and Acute Care Open. And that trend continued in 2018. So years of potential life lost. They're not measuring how many people were killed with each respective method. It's their years of potential life lost. How the hell do you measure what someone's potential life could be? There's no way you could possibly know that. That can't be accurate. Those numbers are complete garbage. And this study is, you would get more use out of this study by crumbling it up and working it to make it nice and soft and wiping your ass with it than you can by using it to prove anything. Those numbers are based on data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention between 2009 and 2018, most recent year for which data was available. Researchers used the CDC standard formula to calculate years of potential life loss by subtracting the age of death from the standard age of 80 to represent the average U.S. life expectancy of 78.7 years, and then added the differences. The main argument is that the right to bear arms to prevent injury or to defend against aggressors may result in a small number of preventable deaths is plausible theory. However, the data reveal that the resulting access to firearms has equated to magnitudes of death due to firearm suicides in the same individuals demanding access to firearms. So what they've done is they've found a way to manufacture, to fabricate numbers to support what they want to support. This is why statistics, they say there's three kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. This shows it, folks. So, rotten researchers, you're the second contestant on Moron of the Week.
Did they get those results using Common Core math?
Yeah, they must have. They maybe, I know what they did. They ran it through Dominion voting machines after they paused to see what they needed. So who is it? Asinine analysts or ridiculous researchers? My vote, folks, is for the researchers. Because that is some epic level dumb shit right there. What do you think, Ro?
The researchers.
Squib?
You always make this difficult. You know that.
I'm supposed to.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I guess I'm going to go with the knee pad guy. Knee pads.
Like I said, his hobbies may require them, but mine don't. We got 2 votes up so far. The asinine, 4 votes. 25% for the asinine analysts. So 1 for the analysts, 3 for the researchers. Let's get some more votes in here, folks. Tell me who you think deserves to be the moron of the week. The guy that said you need knee pads to shoot guns, or the people who are measuring potential lifespan instead of actual numbers of death. New York Outcast says, I always like the pads that go in your pants. They stay put and don't become shin guards half the time. I do like that too. Because, you don't need knee pads to shoot a gun. They are a comfort accessory for when you have to take a knee at the range or wherever. So I'm sure it would be a great use in battle. So if you gotta take a knee really quick, you don't have to worry about what's down there, particularly if you have like a hard protector outer shell on the knee pad. But that aside, aside from comfort, you don't need it. It's not necessary. Nice thing to have, though. So, yeah. Seven Wonder says, Rob, I wasn't paying attention. Who should I vote for? So far, we got 20% of the vote for asinine analyst and 80% of the vote for ridiculous researchers with 5 votes in. Come on, folks. We got 11 people out there watching and only 5 votes. Let's get some votes in here. Tell me who you think should be the moron of the week. The guy that said you need knee pads to fire a gun, or the people that are measuring potential years of lifespan lost instead of actual numbers of people killed with guns and with cars. New York Outcast says, I guess I'm going for the knee pad guy. Six votes, 33% of them with the analysts, 67% with the researchers. Going once. Going twice. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like the ridiculous researchers, you are the morons of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
Alrighty, folks, those of you who've been here before and have stuck around to the end, you know that at this point, we got one last bit of business to cover, and that is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts.
Yay!
For those who don't know, who haven't been here before, or who haven't stuck around to the end, Self-Defense Shoutouts is not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It's where I am instead reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to keep the bad guy from making him do the same. First up is this piece from clickorlando.com. Man who prompted Florida blue alert shot, killed by homeowner during break-in. Perry, Florida. The man who prompted the Florida blue alert was shot and killed by a homeowner during a break-in early Wednesday, according to officials. A blue alert was issued by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for Gregory Ryan Medema in connection with a shooting that injured a Florida deputy late Tuesday. The FDLE canceled the blue alert just after 9:30 a.m. Wednesday. Officials identified the Taylor County deputy as Troy Anderson. Video from the shooting scene showed authorities blocking a highway as they searched for Medema when he was last seen in Perry, Florida. Anderson was airlifted to a hospital with life-threatening injuries where he underwent reconstructive surgery, according to the FDLE and Taylor County Sheriff Wayne Padgett. Our officer is in the hospital right now. He's fixing to go under reconstructive surgery for his face and where the bullet entered. He's stable right now. Everything seems to be going in a good direction unless something turns around, Padgett said during a news conference Wednesday. Troy is a valued employee of Taylor County Sheriff's Office. He is loved by his fellow officers. He is loved by the community. He's done a very good job for TCSO. Dixie County Sheriff Darby Butler said his deputies responded to the shooting of a home intruder around 7 a.m. Wednesday at an undisclosed address in the northern part of the county. Upon arrival, the deputy made contact with the homeowner, who stated he exchanged gunfire with an armed suspect after the suspect entered his home at that time. The suspect was deceased when the deputy arrived at the scene, Butler said. Several firearms were found placed around the area of the suspect's vehicle, and the homeowner who engaged the suspect was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries from the altercation, Butler said. At the conference, FDLE Supervisor Mark Perez linked the two events. The preliminary determination is that this incident that occurred last evening with Deputy Anderson, as well as the incident that occurred in Dixie County at the private residence, was committed by the same individual that was identified in the blue alert that went out. So, good. A would-be cop killer became a home invader and then became a corpse. And, well, that's kind of a natural progression, I would guess. Next up is this piece from kansascity.com. Homeowner shoots, kills armed intruder in Northland, Kansas City police say. This is from the 27th. A man was shot and killed Sunday morning after breaking into a residence in the Northland, Kansas, in the Northland, Kansas City police said. Officers with the Kansas City Police Department were dispatched to a disturbance in the 3800 block of Northwest Berry Road around 9:30 a.m. Sunday. While arriving, they were told there was a shooting nearby at the 3800 block of Northwest 85th Terrace. At the scene of the shooting, officers made contact with the resident of the home, who said an armed intruder had broken in, said Captain Leslie Foreman, a spokeswoman for the department. The resident of the apartment complex said he shot the intruder, who police said was declared dead at the scene. Foreman said police do not know at this point whether the intruder and the resident had any relation or knew one another. She said they're also working to figure out whether the initial disturbance call and the shooting were connected. Police said the resident of the home is cooperating with detectives. They do not believe any other suspects are involved. And last but most certainly not least is this piece from the MiamiHerald.com. A Broward store clerk was attacked behind the counter. Then he fired his gun, video shows. A man who tried to rob a Miramar gas station and attacked a clerk behind the counter was shot and wounded by the worker, police said Wednesday. Surveillance video shows what unfolded around 7:30 p.m. Tuesday at the Sunoco station, 7520 Pembroke Road, according to Miramar police. Jeffrey John Philippe, 33, can be seen in a black hooded sweatshirt going behind the counter and striking the clerk multiple times. The two fell to the ground as Philippe continues to beat the clerk, who was not identified. The clerk can be seen pulling a gun from his back waistband and then shooting, the video shows. He shot at Philippe several times, police said. Philippe ran away and was found on the ground about a mile away from the gas station, according to his arrest affidavit. He was taken by fire rescue to Memorial Regional Hospital for surgery and is expected to survive his injuries, the affidavit states. Philippe, who is recovering at the hospital, has been charged with burglary and battery. Police say the clerk, who has a concealed weapons permit, will not face charges because he was defending himself. Let's take a look at this. If I can. If it will let me. You can see the clerk standing there. Dude comes in, starts wailing on him, slams him to the ground. It's a vicious, brutal attack. They fight back and forth. The guy in the black hoodie just keeps wailing on this fella. Finally, he leaves the area, and the clerk pulls out his piece and starts blasting him. I mean, those that watched that, you saw the violence and brutality of it. No, wait, stop.
Dreaming of a new home.
Saw the violence and brutality of it, folks. It is absolute proof that when the bad guys attack, they go full force at you. They are not there to be worried about your safety. You have no choice that when you're attacked, you need to go all out and meet force with force. Thankfully, this clerk had the ability to do that, and the bad guy is going to suffer the consequences for it. And on that note, it is time to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for being here and being part of the show tonight. I definitely would like to thank my esteemed panel for being here. Squib, is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Anything you would like to plug, sir?
No, everybody have a good night.
And you do the same, sir. Roll call, how about you?
Thanks for having me, like always. Love the show. You can go over and check out my stuff on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, where I tweet politicians of what I really think about them. And I'm unblocked from Elizabeth Warren. So that's good.
They unblocked you? Sweet.
They unblocked me because I told them that they cannot block me from talking to a United States senator. So I've won that appeal. So we'll go back on that boat when she says dumb stuff. But go check out my stuff. Join me Wednesday nights, 9:30, 10-ish, whenever my internet wants to work. For Rants and Raves, we are getting up close to 200. After 200, the show will end in a pretty good faction. I'll have some people on there to join us as we close it out. So don't miss that, and thanks for having me.
And thank you for being here. Speaking of thanks for being here, I want to thank all of you out there in the chat for being here. Those of you who are watching this on replay, and anyone who's listening in the podcast format, which you can find on pretty much all the major podcast platforms except for like iTunes or Apple or whatever they call it now. I'm not there yet. I am on like Stitcher and Spotify and I think Pandora and iHeartRadio and Podbean and Google Play and Listen Notes and all of that stuff. There's a list down in the description below. You can check this out in podcast format. But those of you out there in the chat who are here live and being part of the conversation, you will always have a special place in my heart. And as always, I am humbled and amazed that you've chosen to spend this time here with us. On that note, particularly if you're from Alabama and Ohio, contact your Congress critters and elected representatives. Let them know what you think. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeon, bicycle messenger, heliograph, semaphore, anything you have to do to let them know what you think. And never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.